Do you remember that saying, you don't really know what you have until it's gone? Well, I didn't ever really understand what that meant. That is until an event 9 months ago that changed my life forever. Hi, my name is Ryan and I lived for the longest time in constant pain, but not anymore. In this video, I want to share with you my top 3 tips that I've learned from my invisible illness, small fiber neuropathy, that I'm sure are going to help you in your recovery. Now, I've had the privilege of meeting the experts, the top dogs that know everything there is to know about my chronic illness, but none of this was by accident or by luck. Now, I'm sure you've heard the saying, be your own advocate, but you don't really understand what that means until you've exhausted every other option that you have at your disposal, and not even the doctors that you're meeting with really have any suggestions. And this is exactly what happened to me partway through my healing journey. Sometimes when the going gets tough, you have to rely on the only person that'll stick up for you, and that's yourself. So how can you be your own advocate? Now look, no matter what you're going through, whether it's mental or physical or both, the very first thing you can do is by taking your own personal initiative and asking for exactly what you need. Now look, believe me, in the beginning, I was scared. I remember every single day I would cry at least once. You can do it, don't cry. Don't cry. Okay, so maybe not that dramatic. And after going to the doctor and having a thorough examination, in the words of my doctor, he wanted to pull the plug. But I knew something was still wrong and I wasn't done searching. Let me know in the comments if you can relate to this. At that point, I knew I had to take my health into my own hands because no one else was gonna do it for me. I wish they would, but they're not. But there are a few key things here when you're being your own advocate that I really want you to pay attention to. I began dictating my own testing based on research that I myself had put in the time to do. I was no longer gonna sit around and wait to be told answers like, you look fine, everything's looking good, because it wasn't the truth. When you ask questions, when you wanna get a test that you're looking into doing, make sure that you're polite. Make a suggestion and then listen to the other person's response without interrupting them. You need to be patient. You gotta know that change may take some time. And if you feel like nothing is changing despite your best attempts, that is when you go and find the help of somebody else. That is your job as being your own advocate, is you do not quit searching for answers. You keep going until you get them. But the whole key here is that you start the conversation. See, after a few months of this, pieces to my own puzzle started coming together. But what are a few things you can do when you're on your own, when you don't have that doctor with you to help guide your way, even though you're being your own advocate? I would argue that the one thing that's more important than being your own advocate is taking your health into your own hands beyond just asking questions. This is where self-care comes into play. Though often self-care is neglected. Why do you think that is? Let's face it, we live in a world where most of us are crazy busy. We have stressful jobs, especially right now with the current climate around the world. And we're so consumed with everything going on in our lives that really our own personal care kind of takes a back seat to everything else going on. And even worse, sometimes we can feel guilty for wanting to take time for ourselves when we really need it. But you shouldn't. And here's why. Your health honestly should always be taken as top priority. If you are not in your healthiest state, you are not helping anyone else around you despite how much you want to try. And believe me, I've been there. So here's a few ways I keep my self-care routine a-okay. Number 1, I make sure that I prioritize sleep every single night. Sleep has a tremendous amount of effect on your physical and mental well-being. It's just a fact. Do you ever wake up groggy after really bad nights of sleep and the whole day just goes to hell? Well, there's a reason for that. And on top of that, not getting enough sleep can add on the number of physical health conditions that you have. One of the biggest things that has an impact on how well you sleep is your stress level, and this is something that I'm going to talk about later in the video, so stay tuned. The next thing I want to talk about with self-care is something that is at the very dear part of my heart as a certified nutritionist, and that is eating the right foods. Now, diet can be very different for everybody. Everybody's body is different. Everybody has different gut microbiomes. Everyone has different genetics. But at the end of the day, you should be focusing on one ingredient, and that's the best way to go. I mean, the saying, you are what you eat, is kind of true. 98% of chronic illnesses are actually avoidable if you take the right steps. So you might as well start today. Eating the right foods can help prevent short-term and long-term memory loss, and that's just a win-win, okay? Ryan, I can't find my glasses. My point exactly. Huh? What? And the third thing that I really want to emphasize is exercise. Now I know that everyone is at a different level, especially if you're suffering from an already chronic illness, but you need to be moving. Human bodies were simply made to move around. But don't just jump into it. Start by seeking out a physical therapist and seeing where your weak points are so that you can work on those first. A few great low impact exercises that I've really gotten into are yoga, tai chi, and even walking can be great for the body. The worst thing you can do, and I can't stress this enough, is simply do nothing. Sit on your butt, lay on your bed, get your butt moving, your body will thank you later. There's actually another saying that I really love, and I'm sure you've heard it. Knowledge is power. And that's very true. Knowledge is power. I use it all the time, but it can also be a curse. Let me explain what I mean by that. There comes a time in everybody's chronic illness journey that they have to really learn what the word acceptance means and being able to accept what they're dealing with in the moment. But at the same time, that doesn't mean that you don't have to stop looking for answers. The problem for me came when I was constantly searching for answers, looking and researching all the time, and it completely consumed my life. I had forgotten about the things that I used to love doing, like making videos like this, or hanging with friends or family, spending time outside of looking up everything I wanted to know on the computer. I know it's easy to get lost in the heat of the moment and trying to find answers and trying to make yourself healthier. But what if sometimes the healthiest thing to do is let go? And this was probably the hardest lesson I've ever had to learn. But it was also probably the most worthwhile. I think too often in these situations where you're struck with a sudden illness and you don't know what to do, we spend a lot of our time thinking about how great it used to be. But I'm telling you, spending all of your time in the past isn't going to lead anywhere to your future. If there's one thing I want you to take away from this video, it's that being your own advocate, advocating for your own self-care, and letting go of the past are 3 things that are surely going to help you in your future and your recovery. If you want to know more, hit me up on my Instagram at Ryan Mitchell Brown. I'm always up for a chat. If you like the video, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.